Hi, Assalamualaikum and very good morning to Sir Syafiq and all my friends. So my name is Afika binti Zulaimi and my group members is Muhammad Hafiz bin Abdul Muhammad Nasir, the second presenter. The third presenter is Muhammad Amirul Luqman bin Rasdan and the last presenter is Nur Hayani binti Nur Azhar. So I am the first presenter. So today we would like to present our topic, which is a topic 4. The neuromotor basis for motor control. Okay, for the introduction, what is the neuromotor system? Neuromotor system is the component of the central nervous system, CNS, and the peripheral nervous system, PNS, that involve in the control of coordinate movement. Okay, second, for the neuron. Okay, actually neuron is a nerve cell and is a basic component in the nervous system. And neuron actually has 3 general structure, which is the cell body that have a nucleus, and nucleus function is to control all the activities in the cell. Second, dendrites. Dendrites function is receive all the information from the other cell, and axon function is send all information from neuron. Okay, next is types and function of neuron. Okay, neuron have 3 types, which is first is sensory neuron, second motor neuron, and third interneuron. Okay, sensory neuron is known as afferent neuron, and it's pseudonuclear, which is the axon is split into 2 branches, and the sensory neuron function is send all the information that you receive to the rest of the nervous system from the sensory receptor. Okay, for example, contohnya kalau kita pegang satu permukaan yang panas, okay, kita touch dengan fingertips kita, so permukaan panas tu adalah sensory receptor. So bila kita touch, automatic dia akan activatekan kita punya sensory neuron. Okay, bila sensory neuron kita deactivate, so sensory neuron will send all the impulse or information to all the nervous system. Okay, so example environment, which is touch, smell, sound, taste. So this is example of the environment. Okay, next is motor neuron. Okay, motor neuron is known as the efferent neuron. It is a multipolar, which is have 1 axon and have many branch. And motor neuron of the spinal cord is part of the CNS and connect to the muscle and organ. And motor neuron function is transmit all the impulse from the spinal cord to skeletal muscle and smooth muscle. Okay, maksudnya motor neuron ni, dia function dia adalah dia akan menghantar setiap impuls yang dia dapat daripada spinal cord kepada seluruh masa-masa dalam badan kita. So bila masa kita terima impuls yang dihantar daripada spinal cord, so body kita will react lah, akan bergerak, coordination of the movement, so akan berlaku. Okay, and motor neuron have 2 types, which is the lower motor neuron and upper motor neuron. Okay, for lower motor neuron is the travelling of our signal from the spinal cord to the muscle. And the upper motor neuron is the travelling of impulse from the brain and the spinal cord. So have 2 in the upper motor neuron, brain and spinal cord. Okay, and last, interneuron. Interneuron is the multipolar, and the function is connect and transfer all the signal between sensory neuron and motor neuron. Maksudnya interneuron ni akan berada di tengah-tengah antara sensory neuron dengan motor neuron. So apabila apa-apa information ataupun impuls yang didapat daripada sensory neuron, so interneuron ni akan transfer kepada motor neuron. Okay, dan next function is can communicate with each other. So dia akan berinteraksi each other lah untuk hantar impuls yang dapat. Okay, this is the example of diagram of the neuron, which is have a unipolar, okay, bipolar, pseudonipolar, and multipolar. So as you see, the sensory neuron is the pseudonipolar, okay, have the sensory receptor and have a sensory receptor, and motor neuron and interneuron have a multipolar, which is have one axon and have a several dendrites. Okay.
Okay, Assalamualaikum. I will continue with the brain components. Okay, we go for the cerebrum. Cerebrum is the largest and principal part of the human brain, located in the anterior part of the skull. It consists of two hemispheres, which is the right cerebral hemisphere and left cerebral hemisphere, structurally composed of an outer layer of grey matter, and we call it as a cerebral cortex. The cerebrum is full of grooves and ridges running in every direction. We can call the groove and the ridge as a Sachi and Gyri, and their role is to increase surface area and hence the number of neurons. So next, cortex motor neurons. It also consists pyramidal cells and non-pyramidal cells. For the pyramidal cell, it carrying information about design of movement. And for non-pyramidal cells, the planning of movements and the selection of action. Okay, next, we continue with the lobes. Actually, lobes have 4 lobes: frontal lobe, parietal lobe, temporal lobe, and occipital lobe. As you can see in the picture I have give to you, you can see the position of the frontal lobe, parietal lobe, temporal lobe, and occipital lobe. Okay, for the function of this lobe, we go one by one. So for the frontal lobe, important for cognitive function and control of voluntary movement of activity. Next, parietal lobe. It processes information about temperature, taste, touch, and movement. Next, temporal lobe. It processes memories, integrating them with sensations of taste, sound, sight, and touch. For the last lobe is occipital lobe. It involves in processing visual stimuli. Okay, next, sensory cortex. Sensory cortex include portion of the cerebral cortex, that really outer layer of the brain that process and make sense of information. As we know, sensory cortex have 5 senses, which is hearing, smell, taste, touch, and vision. And also, you can see at the picture I give to you to know where the position of these 5 senses. Okay, continue with the association areas. Association areas, parts of the cerebral cortex that receive input from multiple areas. Association areas also integrate incoming sensory information and also form connections between sensory and motor areas. The function is they are involved in organizing information that comes from various other areas of the brain. Association areas are often linked to complex functions. Okay, next we go to the primary motor cortex. located at the frontal lobe, just anterior to central sulcus, contains motor neurons that send axons to skeletal muscles. The function involved in control of inhibition and coordination of movements for fine motor skills and postural coordination. Okay, next we go to the premotor area. Premotor area is located at the interior to the primary motor cortex. The premotor area will receive input from the posterior parietal cortex, an area important for spatial orientation. The premotor area plays a role in orienting the body and readying the postural muscles for forthcoming movements. Enables transitions between sequential movements of a serial motor skill. For example, keyboard typing and piano playing. So next, we go to the SMA, which is supplementary motor area. SMA situate medially and it is in front of the primary motor cortex and medial to the premotor cortex, also known as a Brodmann area. It divided in two areas, which is pre-SMA, SMA proper. So pre-SMA involved in the learning of new motor sequences. For the SMA proper, it involved in planning of learned complex movement and in coordinating movement involving both hands. So we go to the parietal lobe. Parietal lobe is one of the four lobes of the cerebral cortex. It located behind the frontal lobes. It also involved in organizing and interpreting sensory information from other parts of the brain. It also interacts with the premotor cortex, primary motor cortex, and SMA before and during movement.
Okay, bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. To my fellow friend and my dear Sir Shafiq, thank you for watching our video presentation. I am the third presenter, which is Muhammad Amirul Lokman bin Rasdan, and I will continue the slide presentation about neuromotor basis for motor control. I will start with the subcortical brain are important in motor control. The first one is the basal ganglia or basal nuclei are a group of subcortical structures found deep within the white matter of the brain, which is the brain tissue, being made up by four large nuclei, which is the caudate nucleus, putamen, substantia nigra, globus pallidus bimet. All of these four large nuclei is receive info from cerebral cortex and brainstem, and then send info to the brainstem. Okay, as you can see, the red area is basal ganglia, and the blue one is related structures. Okay, this is the basal ganglia. Okay. Function involved of basal ganglia is planning and modulation of movement, memory eyes movement, reward processing motivation, antagonist muscle during movement, and the force. Okay, basal ganglia. Okay, this is about the dysfunction of the basal ganglia. Condition that cause injury to the brain can damage the basal ganglia. Such conditions include carbon monoxide poisoning, drug overdose, head injury. Okay, the next one is about the many brain disorders are associated with basal ganglia dysfunction. They include Parkinson disease, Wilson disease or disorder causing too much copper in the body tissue, motor control problem, stand for BART, BART. The first one, B stand for bradykinesia or slow movement. A is stand for akinesia, reduced amount of movement. R, rigidity of muscle. 3 is tremor. Okay. The second brain component is diencephalon. Second component of forebrain located between the telencephalon and the midbrain. Contain two group of nuclei. The first one is thalamus and the second one is hypothalamus. Okay, thalamus function is a major role of the thalamus is to support the motor and language system. Damage to the thalamus can lead to permanent coma. Okay, the hypothalamus function is to link the nervous system to the endocrine system via the pituitary gland. It's also secretes neurohormones. Okay, this is the figure of the diencephalon and brainstem. As you can see, this is hypothalamus and this is thalamus. Okay, I will go to the next brain component, which is cerebellum. The cerebellum is located behind the top part of the brainstem, where the spinal cord meets the brain and is made of two hemispheres. Half structure of cerebellum include cortex covering, two hemisphere, white matter under the cortex contain red nucleus, where cerebellum motor neural pathway connect to spinal cord, and the oculomotor nucleus. Okay, this is the figure, the cerebellum. Okay, brain component 3 cerebellum. This is about the function and disorder of cerebellum. Okay, function of cerebellum is maintaining balance, coordinating movement, vision, motor learning. Okay, the next one is disorder of cerebellum. This is condition if the cerebellum is damaged. Okay, the first one is lack of muscle control and coordination, difficulties with walking and mobility, slurred speech or difficulty to speaking, abnormal eyes movement, and headache. Okay. Okay. The fourth, which is the brainstem of the brain component, located at the base of the brain beneath cerebrum, connected to spinal cord. Three components you have to know about the brainstem is that involved in motor control is pons, medulla, reticular formation. Okay, function of pons involved in control of various body functions such as secretion of saliva and balance. Medulla, responsible for regulating several basic functions of the autonomic nervous system, including respiration. Okay, the third one is reticular formation, role in arousal and consciousness, control of movement and sensation, and in the regulation of visceral. Okay. Okay, as you can see, same as the previous figure that I show you in the encephalon. Okay, this is a pons, this is medulla, and you can see this is about the brainstem here. Okay. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you for watching our video presentation. The next presenter, which is Nur Hayani, will continue about the presentation. Okay, that's all from me. Thank you.
Assalamualaikum to Sir Shafiq and my friends. My name is Nur Hayani binti Nur Azhar. I am from class RSR 2433A. Today, I will continue the previous presentation from my group partner. My first slide will be about the spinal cord. Spinal cord is a complex nervous system vitally involved in motor control. The spinal cord consists of nerves that carry incoming and outgoing message between the brain and the rest of the body. It is also the center for reflex such as knee-jerk reflex. Next is the structure of spinal cord. The gray matter in the center of the cord contains interneurons and the cell bodies of motor neurons, axons and dendrites. Projection of the gray matter or the wings are called horns. Together, the gray horns and the gray commissure form the head-shaped gray matter. In transverse sections, the gray matter is conventionally divided into dorsal posterior lateral and ventral anterior horns. The dorsal posterior horns is a cell that transmits sensory info, while ventral anterior horns contains alpha motor neurons with axons terminating on skeletal muscles. Interneurons or rantial cells is located in ventral horn. Next is a sensory neural pathways. A sensory pathways that carries peripheral sensations to the brain is referred to as an ascending pathways or ascending track. The various sensory modalities each follow specific pathways through the CNS. It passes through spinal cord and brainstem, and it connects to sensory areas of cerebral cortex and cerebellum. The two tracks to sensory cortex are especially important for motor control. The dorsal column or medial lemniscus system are where localized touch, pressure, vibration, and joint position sense follows a different pathways. While for anterolateral system, the pathway is for detection of pain, temperature, and very light, poorly localized touch. Next, the track to cerebellum important for motor control is spinocerebellar tract. The spinocerebellar tract is the primary pathway for proprioceptive info. The next slide is motor neural pathways. The motor pathway, also called as a descending tracks. The descending tracks is travel from brain through the spinal cord. These motor neural pathways divided into two, which is first is pyramidal tracts or corticospinal tracts, and non-pyramidal tracts which is brainstem pathways. The pyramidal tract is 60% from motor cortex. It has most fibers cross to other side body, decussation in medulla of brainstem. It is involved in control of fine motor skill performance. While for non-pyramidal tracts is fibers do not cross to other side of body, it is involved in postural control and control of hand and finger flexion extension. Next slide is the motor unit. An alpha motor neurons and all the skeletal muscle fibers is innervates. When a motor neuron is active or fires, all its connected muscle fibers contract. It have two movements, which is fine movement and gross movements. The example for fine movement is eye muscles, which is have one fiber motor units. For the gross movement, for example, is posture control, which is have many fibers up to 700 per motor unit. The ultimate end of the motor neural information is 200,000 alpha motor neurons in spinal cord. The number of muscle fibers served by a motor unit depends on type of movement associated with the muscle. The next slide is about motor unit recruitment. Amount of force generated by muscle contraction depends on number of muscle fibers activated. To increase force, it needs more motor units. The process of increasing number of motor units involves recruitment. The recruitment follows size principle. Size is motor neuron cell body diameter, while for size principle is recruit smallest motor units first. For example, weakest force produced, then systematically increase size recruit until achieve desired force. Next is from intent to actions for the neural control of voluntary movement. Think about the entire process of deciding to perform a skill and actually performing it. The neural activity involved in this process typically follows a hierarchical organization pattern from higher to lower levels of the neuromuscular system. Next is the neural control of voluntary movement. First is higher centers. The function is to form complex plans according to intent, communicates with the middle level via common neurons, The structures is area involved with memory and emotions and associations cortex. Second is middle level. The function is to convert plans to a number of smaller motor programs which determine the pattern of neural activation required. The structures is sensorimotor cortex, cerebellum, basal nuclei, and brainstem nuclei. And the last one is the lowest level. The function is to specific tension of particular muscles and angle of joints at specific times necessary to carry out programs from middle control level. The structures is brainstem or spinal cord. From intent to actions for brain structures associated with movement. It researched by Carlson and Kelso in 2004 demonstrated there is more involved in understanding how we control voluntary coordinated movement than knowing which brain structures involved in which type of movements. Cognitive intention is a critical component. The experiment, participants perform finger flexion movement to a metronome. It follows on the beat, which are synchronized, or from between beats, syncopate. The tasks involve exactly the same movement but two different cognitive intentions. The MRI result shows different brain regions active for the two movement intentions. That's all from me. Thank you.